Hey, welcome to the CMO Whisper Show. I'm your host, Steve Olensky. Part marketing practitioner, part ad agency veteran, part journalist. I was a writer for Forbes for 10 years. I've had so many insightful conversations over the years with business leaders, to athletes, to celebrities, to, of course, CMOs. The only difference now is instead of sharing those insights through written form, I'm doing it this way. My guest today is Anda Gansca, co-founder and CEO of Knotch, a Romanian-born entrepreneur who's built a fast-growing, profitable business helping Fortune 1000 companies understand and improve the performance of their digital investments. She was raised in Transylvania, comes out of a math and computer science background, then heads to Stanford, where she graduates in the top 1% of her class with a double major in economics and international relations. Now, before Knotch, she spent time in venture capital, launched multiple nonprofit initiatives, and started building the foundation for what would become her focus: blending data, storytelling, and impact. Since founding Knotch, she's raised over $40 million, helped other entrepreneurs do the same, and continues to play an active role mentoring and advising early stage founders. Finally, she's someone who understands both the numbers and the narrative. Not an easy thing to do, and how to make them work together. Anda Gansca, welcome to the CMO Whisper Show.
Thank you, Steve. What an introduction. Who wrote that? How did you know I was top 1% of my class? I feel like I don't share that often.
I can't confirm where I got that from, so it's just
So funny. You must have called the university.
Oh my gosh, it is such a
pleasure to be here, and it was so much fun to prep with you. I think the fact that we're just going to have a fun, informal conversation is just a treat. It's going to be the highlight of my day.
Wow. Okay, we'll see. Tell me if you feel the same way at the end. How's that?
Well, it's a Monday, so the bar's low.
That's true. Good point. Okay, I want to start with marketing counterculture. So I think you said, or I read somewhere, 75% of marketers, if 70% of marketers are doing one thing, I should say, why should we be paying attention to the other 25%?
I think in the age of AI, what 75% of people are doing is achieving some type of mediocre output via AI. And the reason we should pay attention to what everyone else is doing is because they're either trying to do better with AI and accept the AI as table stakes and figure out how they can improve it and essentially make it more human so that they gain the benefits and the efficiencies of AI, but the humanity of real creative, or they're just trying to do it in a completely different way. And I think there's actually going to be a rise in brands that are sort of, trademark themselves as fundamentally human brands. And I think buyers are going to potentially care enough to want to go for that. Maybe that's going to be the new version of, extreme luxury. I don't know. But I find that what the median is doing is really just going to be median or average. So I always like to look at the counterculture. I also think there's something happening right now in the world that, as a fan of history, I feel like I've seen it in all my readings of moments like this in history before, where we're kind of looking at the world and saying, no, this time will be different. And so we're all freaking out about how AI is going to be this or that. And the reality is it's never different. It's almost always the same pattern. And so I'm interested in people who have that critical thinking, who can look at this and say, actually, this is just another wave of technology. It does not replace the human. Here's what it does. Here's what it doesn't do. And they don't just fall into the kind of trap of clickbait, if you will, which there's a lot of nowadays.
No, I love that. And you don't know this yet because it didn't come up in our off the air conversation. But one of the things I loved to do when I was at Forbes, when I was writing a lot, was just go into a piece of research. And I was always interested in what the opposite of 63% of people do. I want to know why the other 37% aren't doing it. So I love that you had that thinking of,
totally.
Right? It's the same principle.
Totally. I think nowadays that's where the gold is. Just assume that if you're doing something with AI, everyone else is doing it.
Is there a danger, though, of not paying enough attention to the 75%?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I have not met a marketer in the last year, maybe 2 years, that isn't obsessing about AI or isn't being told that they have to make massive change with AI. I think at the beginning, maybe there was a 3-month phase where some marketers were more reticent about AI, but no, not anymore. I think we've now I think humanity has this ability to kind of go all the way to the one end and then all the way to the other. And again, the clickbait and sort of personalized algorithms of social media don't help. And so I think now we're all the way to the other side where we think AI is the end all be all and we're going to be replaced by higher intelligence and so on. So usually the truth and reality ends up being somewhere in the middle.
Great point.
What do you think, Steve? What do you think is counterculture in today's world? And is it important to listen to counterculture? It sounds like you're aligned.
I thank you for. I love that you're flipping the script here. You're going to take over co-hosting, and that's
Sure.
fine.
Yeah, why not?
Well, like I alluded to earlier, I want to always be the anti, go against the grain, right? I do that in life, not to get all soapboxy on you here, but I always want to know what's the other part doing and why are they doing it? Why aren't they following the trend, right? And I think in the context of what you and I are talking about with AI, I almost use the word lazy right? And that may come across as a negative connotation, so be it. But to just be able to drop something in Claude or chat or whatever, you were getting really close if we have not crossed that lazy line, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Where, again, I'm not anti-AI, believe me, I'm not. But to just wake up and just drop everything in the chat and, okay, whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do. No.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder how we should think about this word lazy and some of the benefits of being lazy. Like I've asked myself, what are the types of people that are going to do really well in this world of AI? And I do think lazy is one of the attributes of the people that will do the best. I think brilliant people who have original thought but are too lazy to try to write 50 pages of something, or to go through multiple variants of ideas. I think those people, I wouldn't call. I mean, I think I qualify for that. I think those people are going to do well because it's really about the fast iteration of multiple variants of your idea that maybe you were too lazy to try before, but now that you have Claude or GPT, you're able to do. The other thing that I've been thinking about, and I was talking to a few different marketing teams and customers about this. I think you had Andrea Brimmer from Ally on the podcast, right? I saw.
Yes.
I was talking to Andrea and her team about this as well, and just kind of saying to them that we have customers that went almost like too early into some of these technologies. And as a result, they've had to change their processes so many times. And in fact, I almost feel like they were and are at a disadvantage because they're in the experimental group. And in some ways, our lazier customers who've stood back and watched it all unfold a little bit more and maybe they're acting now with more data. In some ways, they're doing better. So I'll say, look, lazy is an interesting word. I think in the context of AI, it could have positive connotations in different ways, both as a consumer and as a team.
I agree with you. The word lazy has many connotations. I didn't necessarily to imply it would only be negative. But usually that word, it doesn't have a lot of positive anyway, right? But there's something to be said for being lazy in the right context, if that makes sense.
I mean, look, if you think about what AI will likely do to all of us overall, I think it's going to create new jobs and so on. But ultimately, it's going to replace our primary KPI and purpose as human beings from productivity to something else. Yeah. Because we spend all of this time, like decades and decades, especially since the Industrial Revolution, thinking that our purpose as humans on this earth is to be productive. So the word lazy has a negative connotation because we are used to being productive. And if we can have a checklist and, go through that checklist and ace our checklist at the end of the day, then we feel good. And then we feel like our purpose has been accomplished. That's moving away from all of our existence in mind. Our KPIs about business outcomes and how we get there, whether we do it with AI or not. I think, again, if you're lazy and use AI in the right ways, I almost think you're going to be at a better advantage. So then you start to change, okay, my purpose as a professional, as a person, isn't to be productive. It's to get to the outcome the fastest way with the least friction, capabilities that will get me there.
Okay, so I agree with what you're saying. How do you know, and I'm really asking euphemistically, when to trust the data versus challenge it?
What do you mean by the data?
Well, the output, right? Whether it's an AI or literally the data.
Yeah. I think that's where human intuition comes into play. I think intuition and judgment, those are going to be the greatest currencies. I think intuition and judgment are often created by experience, by adding a lot to how you understand history, how you understand patterns, how you understand, the human that's if you're a marketer, you have to understand the human that's on the other end that you're trying to sell to. The more you can deepen that intuition, that understanding, that expertise, I think the better your ability to look at the output and say, yes, this is good, or no, it's not. That's going to be the difference maker. If you're just a dumb layer on top of an AI output, then what's your role? The AI can just do it. So I
Okay.
think in some ways AI is just going to make us more human. It's going to force us to go into the things that are fundamentally human, and those are going to be the biggest differentiators. And I'm talking like overall for all of us and humanity in general, but also about marketing in particular.
You realize how oxymoronish that sounds, right? And I'm not saying it's a
I
bad
do.
thing, but AI is gonna make us more human. All right.
Yes, I believe that.
And I completely agree too. But you can see how some people would go, "What? That doesn't make any sense," but it
Well, it's
does.
taking away from the things that we were doing to replicate to some extent machines.
Hmm.
I think I mean, there's this famous video with Jensen from NVIDIA, and someone asked him, what's the smartest person you've met?" And he says, we all used to think that smartest person meant the smartest engineer, the person who could write the best. And those are the first things that are 100% being disrupted by AI. So what's going to be the value add of an engineer on top of code? It is going to be fundamentally their creative intuition,
Hmm.
their expertise, their ability to do something well beyond what an AI could. The same is true for almost every role. So I think it is forcing us to tap further into what makes us fundamentally human, that's going to help us differentiate ourselves from what the 75% is doing. Because that's not going to win. AI outputs on their own are not going to win. It's the thing we do to them that will make us win.
So let me take a step down the path here, the rabbit hole, get a little granular. What is AI actually changing in marketing right now?
Well, I think it's doing all the busy work that we have so many teams and workflows well established to do. I think we are an interesting case study at Notch because we work with Fortune 1000 marketing teams, but we also don't really have a marketing team of our own. And one of the reasons is because we started to employ not just our data and our internal expertise, but AI to really automate a lot of the things that we thought we needed to go hire for. And it's been fascinating. In our case, we work with Claude Cowork quite a lot. We work with Gemini as well, really for different things. I think the more you use these models, the more you realize that they're good at some things and maybe not at others. But the more we've used them, the more we've realized the things that really matter and are differentiated that we're probably going to end up hiring for are creative and brand, like really the big creative ideas that it's just like orthogonal thinking. It's you can't go from I'm going to give this AI a set of inputs and this AI is going to give me the big idea for the next campaign or the next positioning for this product. So
Right.
that's something that I really believe we need. But ideally, it's a person who knows exactly how to employ AI in order to automate product marketing from it. Like ideally, you have someone who does that. You have the product leader who's giving you the product positioning. You have a commercial leader who says, this is who we need to go after. And with those inputs, you can sort of generate sales enablement copy, product marketing, even positioning for different campaigns. You can generate synthetic testing for variants of the different campaigns. I mean, so much is automated or will become more and more automated. But I do think that creative thought and to some extent multi-variable reasoning, like being able to optimize for brand, for strategic goals, for your ICP, all of that all at once, I still think it's a team sport amongst human beings.
What's being overhyped about AI right now?
I think weirdly, even though AI can generate, product marketing, sales enablement, the bar that I think we have for that kind of content is not that high. I think what we're overhyping is AI's ability to generate really great customer facing content. Internal facing content, that's one thing. The bar is very different. External customer facing content, I still think we're overhyping AI's ability to generate great content. And trust me when I tell you, all we do day in, day out is measure content. We really know what great content looks like. We know how AI created content performs as opposed to human created content. The human very much needs to be in the loop when creating great content that's customer facing. So that's number one. I think AEO and GEO is overhyped but not because LLM visibility is not important. It's because everyone and their grandmother is selling marketers on the idea that they can control LLM visibility when in fact they cannot. But on top of that, even if you assume you can actually improve your LLM visibility position, I still think across our customers, none of our customers have actually seen a true fundamental change to their business outcomes. So what I think is really happening is that consumers may not be going to Google as much to do parts of their research. Consumers may not be going to websites earlier in their research process. Consumers are using LLMs for research. That is changing their mindset. It's changing their expectation of what they then expect from a brand. But I don't think that many more people are actually converting. I think the number of people who are converting and becoming customers is staying flat, even though the traffic changes and customer journey changes are different. So I don't know about that area. I think it's overhyped. I think there's a lot of noise. And all of our customers who are doing experiments on that front are not quite seeing the conversion payback. All of them are talking about, we're seeing an increase in our AI visibility rank, which are these sort of made up metrics that we have no idea whether they correlate to downstream conversions, but so far we haven't seen a true correlation.
So you mentioned content, right? I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second. In the context of branding, messaging, marketing, is there a fear of we're headed toward a world where everything starts to sound the same?
For sure. I think yes, that's exactly what I think we need to avoid. Or as a marketer, I would try to avoid. I think that's why when I say internal facing copy, like product marketing and sales enablement, totally fine to use AI to really automate that, because you have, humans that have that internal facing copy and can use critical thinking to know how to present it to the world. But if you're thinking about content that you're actually putting out in the world in front of your customers, I think you have to take a step back and wonder, if AI is generating this for me and it's generating it for my competitor, what's going to be my point of differentiation?
Yeah. I mean, and the follow-up is, like, if everybody has the same tools, theoretically, where does that differentiation come from?
Exactly. And I have an answer too.
Please.
I think the answer is personalization. I mentioned to you, Steve, that we're launching something soon. I've been diving deep into the world of personalization, trying to figure out why it's been this broken promise for marketers for the past 10 years. Like, was it a technology issue? Was it a content issue? Was it a setup issue? And there's it's an interesting conversation to have. But I think the way that you can actually both use AI to automate a lot of outputs, but also have the right creative human thought put into it, and then arrive at an output that's actually relevant for the consumer in a one-on-one basis, is ultimately personalization. Why we're not there yet, that's been the subject of my exploration for the past year and a half.
We'll be on the lookout for that announcement. Okay, this topic I'm really interested. Not that I wasn't interested in all these topics, but the CMO versus CFO tension, right? Topic. Really interested to get your thoughts on this. And have we trained, and we being marketers, CFOs to be skeptical, or has marketing just not done a good enough job telling its story?
I think marketing in general doesn't do a good enough job telling its story. Marketing is usually on the defense when marketing should be on the offense, because it is the first place that everyone turns to whenever costs have to be cut. It is the first place where everyone turns to whenever there's a new technology to be adopted. So I think there's a double whammy happening right now to CMOs, where the CFO hears, oh, you can use AI to automate all these things, which is partially true in some ways, not true in others. But they're coming to CMOs and saying, what are you doing? Show me the money, show me the automation. And then on top of that, because there's a lot of pressure in the public markets and costs have to go down, the double whammy of, so how are we decreasing costs overall from a marketing perspective? I would say across our customers, probably 10 to 15% of our CMOs do it right, which is before the CFO could even think to ask, they go to the CFO and say, look, I've done an analysis. I figured out the places where we can automate. I figured out where we cannot. Here's a pot of money that I'm going to put up as a variable pot of money. I can give it back to you if you want right now, or I can hold it and use it in an outcome-driven way for these 4 initiatives. Meanwhile, here's how I'm going to automate some of the functions. Here's how I'm thinking about repurposing the humans that we have so that we're using them in the right ways. And as a result, really dictating the messaging. What I usually see happen is it goes the other way around. The CFO makes the call, the CMO then has to scramble to presentation about the ROI of this and that. And ultimately, the result isn't great. Sometimes it's not great for the marketing team. Sometimes it's not great for the CMO.
So the CMO is being reactive, right, instead of proactive.
Yes, I think for the most part, but some of the best CMOs are definitely extremely proactive. It's not just about making friends with the CFO, it's about going to the CFO and telling them, here's my cost savings that I'm ready to give to you, but if you let me keep it, here's how I'm actually going to drive you more business.
Right. It's no more complicated than, if I'm a CMO, this is how I can make your life easier, Mr. CFO.
Yeah, essentially. Exactly. Yeah, you kind of do the work for them and present it to them, and they're happy that they don't have to come to you with their own analysis, and hopefully they're also happy because you're proposing that you're driving more business.
Exactly. I mean, I greatly simplified that, but you got my point.
I think as a CMO, if you have an ego about increasing your budget every year in today's world, it's going to be tough. I think at best you can hope that you will keep the number of your full-time employees flat. That's at best. And that's assuming you can repurpose them in ways that are AI complementary. And budget-wise, I think flat, up, down, it really depends on how well you can tell the story of acquisition. And I think if you overly index on things like AI visibility that hasn't actually been proven to drive conversions, it may well hurt. I think if you over index on paid, it may well hurt. So it's not easy, but I think there is a path of thinking holistically about the customer journey and how it's unfolding that could lead you to the right mix of investments.
So you mentioned ego. It seems becoming more of a liability, right, in marketing right now. Why is that?
I mean, has ego ever been an asset? If so, when?
It's a good question. I think I could make the case, yes.
Do it.
Within the context of helping the greater cause, which would be the brand. Mm-hmm. So if I'm a CMO of a brand and I have an ego that I want to be on stage more, just hypothetically. Mm-hmm. But by getting me out there more, it also gets the brand name out there more, does it not?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest question if you're in marketing is around your ideal customer persona. Like, are you doing this to target your buyers or are you doing this to target your peers? And I think that's the difference between productive ego or not productive ego. So, if you're the CMO of MasterCard, you have multiple sets of audiences. MasterCard has a media network now, right? So very much makes sense for the CMO of MasterCard to go out in front of fellow CMOs and talk about MasterCard because she has a product to sell them. But if she didn't, I think it would be a tougher sell. Now, all of us like to do things to celebrate achievements, to celebrate, ourselves, our teams, and so on. So I think it's normal to do that. I actually think it's more important than ever that we celebrate creative and that we celebrate humanity and that we get together in person. But most CMOs that are great CMOs know how to use their best judgment and say, yes, I'm going to go to Cannes because, this is the moment where I want to celebrate our team and our work and etc. versus no, I'm not going to go to Cannes because this is the moment where we need to automate with AI and proactively message the CFO, and that's going to be the bad signal.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is Captain Obvious here, but it's really a case by case because what's your goal versus your ROI of a spend? And I'll just use your example to go to Cannes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's an interesting one, but I definitely think that before COVID, we were in an era where there was a lot of, you called it ego. I think there was just a lot of industry folks celebrating industry folks. Like our industry just has a lot of awards and moments where we get to celebrate ourselves. And that's, I don't know if the CFO community can say the same, It's fun, we get to go to nice places and drink rosé.
And get your picture with a celebrity.
Yeah.
But what does that do for that's a topic that is very, very near and dear to my heart. And I have a lot of opinions on it, but I won't get into them now for brevity's sake. You and I can talk off air, but I have a lot of strong opinions on that. But having said that, and looking and being respectful of the time, I'm going to wrap up the way I wrap up every episode. And if you've listened, it's called the Random Five, where I ask you 5 personal questions, if you will, so my listeners and viewers can get to know you. So if you're game, here we go.
Sure.
First question, what's your version of a perfect no agenda day?
A perfect no agenda day would be being able to spend as much time as I can walking around talking to Claude about all sorts of things.
Talking the clock.
Yes, I seriously do this on Sundays. I go on a 2 hour walk on my own and I just talk to Claude about all sorts of things from work to health to like, I don't know. I somehow became curious about bears recently and wanted to understand more about bears. I don't know. Claude must think I'm the craziest person, but I just love that.
I have the same relationship with chat. I'm a chat guy, but it's the same principle. I find myself, what should I make for dinner?
I'm just a really curious person. So I like to just kind of flow in conversation. Like I love talking. So I just put my earphones in and I walk around talking to Claude.
All right. Next question. What's something you wish you were naturally better at?
Creative and design. I'm not very good at that. And I feel like I am a creative person that is not good at creative. I wish that I could like sing or write or something to like let out all this creative energy. But I think my form of creativity is building stuff.
Okay. I mean, that's creative.
It is. I just wish I could like write poetry as well or something. That would be fun.
I was going to say it's not in what society deems quote unquote creative, but that's very much creative.
It's true.
Okay. What kind of music are you listening to when you're in a great mood?
Reggaeton.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know what reggaeton is, it's what you listen to at the halftime show at the Super Bowl. I was so happy to see that halftime show. Yes, I feel like I'm adopted Latina because I'm from Romania, which is a Latin country, and I grew up listening to a lot of Latin music, and I was a ballroom dancer, so I did a lot of Latin dances. So yes, I listened to a lot of Latin music.
So we're going to say ballroom dancing for part 2. So we'll table that. So what does a ballroom dancer and a CMO have in? No, I'm kidding. What's something you've gotten a lot better at as you've gotten older?
Patience. Although my team would laugh. I think they're going to laugh really hard when they hear this, but I've definitely gotten better at being patient, and I think trusting the universe a little bit more, trusting that there's a way in which things end up the way they're supposed to be.
Okay, last question. To be honest, okay, not that you weren't before. If we look at your phone right now, how many unread texts and emails are we looking at?
Okay, I'm going to tell you.
She's doing this in real time.
I'm doing it in real time. I have 300 texts and 2,790 unread emails.
Okay, that's
just qualify. Okay, let me just tell you, because that most of that is in my personal inbox, and I just signed up. Let me tell you, in my professional inbox, I have 100 unread. So a lot better. Doing a lot better.
Okay. If you want to rationalize it that way, be my.
I do get back to people. I'm very good about getting back to people, but I have a 2 business day thing going on. There's just a lot of, I have like Slack, I have text, I have WhatsApp, I have Signal, I have email. It's just too much.
I know. I'm the same way. I tell people all the time, if you don't hear back from me in a couple of days, come beat me up.
Exactly.
You have my permission. Listen, what a treat. Anda Gansca. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
You are an absolute treat. I'm so glad we made this time, and I can't thank you enough.
Same. Thank you, Steve. This was a great chat. Had a lot of fun.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the CMO Whisperer Show. I hope you shared this episode with your friends, and if you have not already, please subscribe to be kept up to date on all the latest episodes. And if you're so inclined, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you.